I'm Claire Whitaker, 36, a nonprofit operations manager who spent the last 6 years caring for my dying father, rebuilding my life after a breakdown, and clawing back every shred of stability I'd lost. I didn't expect applause. I didn't expect a medal, but I also didn't expect to be seated in a folding chair at Christmas dinner, without a name card, without acknowledgement, and then accused of stealing $90,000 in front of my entire family. What my sister Vanessa didn't realize, though, was that her fake smile and forged signature would unravel something far bigger than she ever intended. But before I tell you how I ended up playing a voice recording on Bluetooth in the middle of our do-over holiday, exposing a forgery, a lie, and a sister willing to erase me for inheritance, tell me this. Have you ever been erased by the people who were supposed to protect you? Drop a comment if you've ever had to choose the truth over keeping the peace. And stay with me, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about how the forgotten daughter brought receipts to Christmas and made damn sure they stuck. They gave me a folding chair. Not a seat. Not a name card. Just a message. The front door was already ajar when I arrived. Strings of golden lights draped across the hedges and laughter spilled from the kitchen window, muffled by the winter air. It smelled like cinnamon, roasted ham, and a hint of something sharp. Maybe too much wine, or maybe the kind of bitterness that can only stew under a curated holiday facade. Last year, I wasn't invited. This year, I was. Barely. I held the small stack of gifts tighter to my chest, careful not to crumple the edges. Each was wrapped in recycled brown paper, hand-stamped with gold stars. Inside, I'd placed things that mattered. Things they might not remember asking for, but I had remembered anyway. A monogrammed pen for Mom, a signed vinyl for Ethan, and a framed drawing Emily made but forgot in my bag 2 months ago. The biggest was a scrapbook I'd spent 4 weekends crafting, a visual history of all our holidays growing up, down to the paper napkin Mom used in 2004 with snowmen wearing top hats. I stepped in. "Claire?" Mom said, her voice too bright, already pivoting her cheek for a kiss. "You're early." I wasn't. Dinner was at 7. It was 7:03. Vanessa breezed in from the hallway, hair like spun gold, a dress that probably cost more than my rent. "Wow, look who decided to show up this year," she said, arms open but stopping short of actual embrace. "You look cozy." My sweater was thrifted. She didn't have to say it. "I brought some gifts," I said quietly, placing them by the tree. The living room had been transformed. Garlands over the mantel, crystal reindeer on the coffee table, jazz versions of carols humming through smart speakers. Every seat at the table had a card with gold script. Ethan, Vanessa, Margaret, Emily, even Vanessa's +1 who wasn't even here yet. My name wasn't there. I blinked, then spotted it. A folding chair near the hallway arch, unpadded, out of place. "Thought we were short one seat," Vanessa said airily, sipping from a glass. "You don't mind, right?" I smiled too quickly. Of course not. Dinner was served in courses. I sat quietly, responding when spoken to, mostly listening. Ethan made a joke about the airport losing his luggage. Mom laughed too hard. Vanessa passed a plate of scalloped potatoes and pretended not to notice when it wobbled over my lap. Then dessert. And speeches. Vanessa stood first, raising her glass. "It's been a magical year," she began. "And it wouldn't be Christmas without our traditions. This year, we have something special." She held up the scrapbook. The one I made. My breath caught. "This beauty," she said, flipping it open as the room gasped at the first page, was a passion project. It took forever. I almost gave up. "Vanessa, this is gorgeous," Mom said, teary-eyed. "Wow," Ethan murmured. "Look at the baby photo of Emily with the mashed carrots." I opened my mouth, closed it again. There was my handwriting. On every caption, every label, the drawings, the stickers I drove across town to find. I touched my fork. I could say something. A small correction, a casual, "Actually, But Vanessa turned to me, that saccharine smile painted on. Claire helped with the printing, didn't you? My throat burned. I nodded. Team effort, she added. I reached into my bag and pulled out the little handwritten speech I'd folded into fourths. My palms were sweating. I stood. I just wanted to say something quickly. I began, unfolding the note. Vanessa blinked. Oh, let's get the mic. Where's the mic? Ethan handed her the wireless one. She passed it to me, eyebrows raised. I pressed the button. No light. It's dead, I said softly. Oh, shoot, Vanessa said, turning to the room. Guess it wasn't meant to be. A few polite chuckles. Someone coughed. I stepped back, slid the paper back into my pocket. Mom was already lifting the cheesecake cover. Conversation moved on. I watched as they flipped through the scrapbook again, my scrapbook, and applauded. Applauded her. I didn't speak. My jaw tensed. My hands were still in my lap. The lights reflected off the silverware, casting little glints like knives across the tablecloth. Emily, sitting beside me now, leaned in close, her voice low. Mom said you always take credit for stuff, she whispered, but I think it's okay now. Vanessa standing with a champagne flute and a grin. Give back the $90,000 or you'll never see Mom again. The laughter from the dining room had dulled into soft murmurs, now replaced by the low hum of jazz filtering through hidden speakers. Someone had dimmed the lights. The living room smelled like pine, vanilla, and something artificial. Holiday-scented candles struggling to mask the tension that pulsed just beneath the surface. I was sitting on the armrest of the folding chair, spine aching. I kept telling myself it was just another evening, another Whittaker performance. But my hands wouldn't stop clenching. Vanessa stood near the fireplace, champagne in hand, the glass catching light like it had a spotlight of its own. Everyone else sat scattered. On couches, floor cushions, dining chairs dragged closer. Emily was curled up at Margaret's feet. Ethan sat beside a cousin, thumbing a coaster, looking at everything but me. And then Vanessa smiled, the kind of smile you'd expect before a toast. I think it's time for the real game, she said, her voice sugary. Let's talk about trust. I straightened. There's been a situation, she continued, taking a slow sip. A breach, really. One we've kept quiet for too long. I froze. She turned toward me, the room following her gaze like sheep to a border collie. Claire, she said sweetly, remember that joint account Mom and Dad set up a few years ago? The emergency one? My chest tightened. I said nothing. Well, imagine our surprise when we found out $90,000 went missing from it during Dad's hospice care. She pulled out a folder, sleek, leather-bound, too prepared. Here, she said, passing papers down the line. Transaction logs, wire transfers, dates, amounts. The pages stopped near Ethan. He didn't look up. Margaret said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on her lap, fingers gently tugging at the hem of her dress. I didn't touch that account, I said quietly. Vanessa gave a theatrical blink. Then how did the money leave with your name on the transfer? I paid for his treatment, I said, but from my personal savings. Dad didn't want the family involved. He asked me to keep it quiet. No receipts? Vanessa said, her voice laced with pity. No emails, no shared invoices. Just your word? The air thinned. I searched the room. Ethan, silent. Cousins avoiding eye contact. Margaret still not lifting her head. I wasn't looking for thanks, I said, trying to stay calm, but I didn't steal from him. Vanessa stepped forward. Then give it back. Reimburse the estate or walk away. Walk away? Her smile sharpened. From us. From Mom. From all of this. I blinked hard. The tears weren't coming, but the sting sat behind my eyes like smoke. Is this some kind of joke? I asked, voice lower now. I wish it were, she said, but family money isn't for freeloaders. not even if they play nurse for 6 weeks and expect sainthood in return. The words hit sharper than I expected. I thought someone would say something. Ethan, maybe. Or Margaret. But the silence that followed, I looked around one more time. Margaret still hadn't looked at me. Not once. I sat back, slowly, like every bone had turned to glass. They weren't shocked. They weren't confused. They had decided this long before Vanessa opened her mouth. I slipped my hand into my coat pocket and pulled out my phone under the table, angling the screen away from the firelight. My thumb moved quickly through folders, avoiding the tremble. There it was. Last will 2019.pdf. I wasn't looking for the truth. I just wanted something to ground me. Then I found the email. The house was quiet in that eerie way only the early hours of Christmas could bring. Just before the light creeps in, when everything smells like pine needles and leftover pie, and the silence wraps around your thoughts like cotton. The kitchen was dim. One overhead light buzzed softly, casting a halo on the marble countertop. Someone had left the laptop open. Maybe Vanessa, maybe Ethan. I hadn't been able to sleep. My body ached from the folding chair, from the stillness I'd forced myself into last night, from being invisible. I padded in barefoot, wrapped in the cardigan I kept in the car. I didn't know what I was looking for. Closure, maybe. Something to tether me to sanity before the storm broke loose. And then, like it was waiting for me, the screen blinked on. An email window. Unsaved draft. To Vanessa subject. You need to let it go. She paid for everything. I knew. I didn't stop you. I just didn't have the strength to go through it again after your father died. But I saw the receipts. Don't say she didn't contribute. I don't want this hanging over Christmas. My breath caught. The cursor blinked, waiting, like it was challenging me to move. I didn't. I read it 3 more times. The timestamp said December 20th, 5 days ago. It was never sent. Maybe Margaret thought better of it. Or maybe she never meant to write it in the first place. But she had. And it was here. I swallowed hard and looked around as if someone might suddenly appear and snatch the screen away. I opened a new tab, quickly searched the file directory. There, buried under old recipes and scanned PTA flyers, sat a folder. Dad's Hospice. I clicked. Inside were a dozen PDFs. Insurance forms, notes, invoices, and one wire transfer receipt. $90,000, sent from Claire Whitaker. Timestamp, March 4th, 2023. From personal savings account. I clicked print to PDF, saved a copy to my phone, then looked at the USB plugged into the side. The plastic had yellowed slightly with age, but the label was still there. Hospice, D. I pulled it out gently and slid it into my coat pocket. The air in the kitchen shifted. Cooler, like the house was finally exhaling after months of pretending. I walked to the dining room where the cards still sat from last night. Vanessa had made sure everyone had their own place cards, gold-rimmed, calligraphy names. I picked up the one marked Margaret. The signature on the back, her cursive M and curling G, looked familiar. Too familiar. I pulled up a scanned copy of the 2023 will Vanessa had pushed through probate. Margaret's signature was at the bottom, but it was wrong, looped too cleanly. The downstroke didn't match. I held the two side by side. My chest buzzed with the thud of adrenaline, slow and heavy. It wasn't real. The signature on the will had been faked. I sat down at the table, pulled out my phone, and opened a text thread I hadn't touched in a while. Claire. Need verification on forged signature plus legal positioning. Urgent. Rachel had been a friend once. A good one. Law school roommate. We hadn't spoken in a while, but she was still a paralegal in estate law. Last I checked. Seconds ticked. Then my screen lit up. Rachel. I'm in. And I think I already know how she faked it. The room was still dark, but something shifted inside me. No more floating. I whispered to no one. I deserve land. This time I didn't come bearing gifts. I came with truth. The second Christmas dinner was Vanessa's idea. A do-over, she'd called it. Said the first one was too tense, that we all needed closure, like that could be wrapped in tinsel and reheated ham. Same living room, same pine candles, same glittering tree. But the lights were dimmer now, as if they knew what was coming. The music a touch louder, like a mask slipping on a shaky voice. I stepped in without the folding chair, without the cardigan, without the scrapbook. Vanessa greeted me with a smile so brittle it could cut glass. "Glad you came," she said, like she hadn't tried to erase me 4 days ago. I nodded once and moved to the center of the room where the old coffee table stood like a stage. The others were already seated. Ethan near the hallway, Margaret tucked beside the fireplace, hands clasped too tightly. A few extended family members hovered with cautious expressions, sipping wine. I pulled my phone from my coat pocket and connected it to the living room's Bluetooth speaker. No one moved. The first audio file played. Margaret's voice, tired, warbled but unmistakable. She pressured me. Vanessa. Said it would be easier if everything just went to her. Said you'd understand, but I didn't want to lie to you. Silence. I didn't wait. I tapped the next file. Vanessa's voice, louder, confident, laughing. Honestly, I can fake her signature with my eyes closed. Mom's got like 2 loops total. A kid could do it. Someone dropped a fork. Vanessa's jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. I pulled a stack of papers from my tote, walked to each seat and handed them out. No holiday ribbon, no cheerful font. On each page, Margaret's signature on old birthday cards, side by side with the one on the 2023 will. The difference was glaring. Even the hesitant cousin in the back squinted and shook his head. Margaret's lips parted slightly. Her eyes glistened, but she said nothing. Ethan flipped through his copy twice, slower the second time. His fingers trembled. I walked back to the table, placed my phone screen up on the surface, and began casting it to the living room TV. A large PDF appeared. Dad's hospice transfer. Time-stamped. Labeled. Metadata scrolling at the bottom, sourced and verified by Rachel. I looked around the room. "You said I stole from you," I said, my voice even. "Turns out you've been stealing everything, including my voice." Margaret dropped her eyes to the floor. Ethan stood up only to sit again. No one looked at Vanessa. Until she laughed. Softly, at first. Then louder. "Oh, Claire," she said, smoothing her dress, brushing off invisible lint. "You think that's impressive?" She reached for her purse. "Wait till you see what I have." The voice in the file was mined. The words were not. It was barely 9 when the email came in. The subject line was sterile. Notice of internal inquiry. The body held just enough chill to freeze the blood in my fingers. Claire Whitaker, a recording alleging admission of document forgery, has been submitted to HR. You are suspended with pay pending investigation. Please await further contact. HR compliance. I read it once, then twice. My coffee sat untouched, the steam already fading. I opened the attachment. The audio file was titled, Confession Claire Final.wav. I clicked play. My own voice flooded the room. Or rather, something that sounded like it. Yes, I forged. Just needed it to look clean. No one else would understand. Spliced. Flat. Hollow. I didn't breathe. Every sentence was clipped like torn magazine letters rearranged into a threat. The phrases were mine, plucked from old hospice care voice notes I'd recorded for Dad. But the rhythm was off. The warmth was stripped. This was synthetic guilt, and only one person would think of doing it. Vanessa. Not directly. Never directly. But she always knew how to recycle what wasn't hers. I remembered being 12, arguing about a group project in school. You said it better. She'd shrugged. I just repeated it louder. I yanked my phone from the desk and texted Rachel. Claire, New voice file. Pinned on me. Urgent. She responded instantly. Rachel. Send it. Within 15 minutes, she had pulled the waveform into her analysis software. Rachel. Claire, this was assembled from fragmented .m4a files. Hospice notes. She mind your voice. I closed my eyes. Vanessa must have had access to Dad's care folder on our old shared drive. But proof wasn't enough. I needed a source, something irrefutable. And that came unexpectedly in the form of an email from Ethan. Subject. I'm sorry. Claire. I should have stepped in earlier. Vanessa used my old tablet last month. I found a synced folder titled Fake Audio Project. It has raw clips, file logs, timestamps. Forwarding now. Do what you need to do. I opened the folder. Dozens of clips. Her voice, mine, file names like cut1whitaker.wav and merge3confess.m4a. Metadata logs showed she'd compiled them using free AI voice tools. Rachel's message pinged again. Rachel, with this plus Ethan's folder, you're untouchable. I replied to HR. I didn't forget that audio, but I can prove who did. Check attachment. Attached. A zipped file containing Rachel's forensic metadata report, Ethan's email, and the entire fake audio project folder. My hands shook slightly as I hit send. Moments later, Rachel's final text slid into view. Rachel, the clip is officially flagged as manipulated. Press or law? Your call. They erased my name from the will, the chair, the family albums, but not from the truth. The official HR email arrived with a simple subject line. Clearance confirmed. I clicked it without hesitation this time. The suspension was lifted. The investigation concluded. No wrongdoing found. Those words rang like a quiet anthem in my ears. What I hadn't expected was the offer at the end. An internal role, overseeing financial integrity cases across the foundation. They said it was temporary. I said I'd think about making it permanent. That same morning, Rachel forwarded confirmation that the complaint had been submitted, discreetly to the authorities. Vanessa's name had already begun disappearing from legal documents. Slowly, almost as quietly as she had rewritten mine. No public drama, no mugshots, just silence, just consequence. At home, the apartment smelled like fresh paint and cardamom. Emily was curled on the couch, two mismatched socks peeking out from under her oversized blanket. She had chosen to come with me after the fallout. Her decision, not mine. You're the only one who listens like Grandpa, she'd said. I found her staring at an old photo album, one Vanessa hadn't scrubbed. Will I ever see Grandma again? She asked without looking up. I paused, not because I didn't know, but because the truth deserved a measured place. Not until it feels like home, I said softly. Not until it's safe. She nodded and turned the page. Later, after Emily fell asleep with her hand on the edge of that album, I opened one of the drawers in my study. It had taken weeks to unpack properly. I'd been afraid of what I might find. Or not find. But there it was. The first copy of my father's will. Faded. Torn along one edge. His signature slightly smudged, like he'd hesitated before finalizing it. The paper smelled like the old file cabinet he kept in the basement. Dust, cedar, and loss. I placed it beside a framed photo of Emily, her smile missing a tooth, her hand gripping mine. Behind me, the heater clicked once, then quieted. I traced Dad's name with one finger and whispered, not for anyone else to hear, just for the truth to echo. I wasn't erased. I was just buried. And now I bloom. The woman they tried to erase stood taller in silence than they ever did in command. Behind every lie they told, a record remained, one not written in ink, but carved in consequence. Justice didn't roar through courtrooms or scream across headlines. It arrived quietly, backed by patience, truth, and proof. Because no wall of lies can stand forever against the tide of truth.